recently on my runs this topic, this thought of, are we running a business as agents, right? Are you running a business or are you working a job? And I've heard it explained both ways. And my own opinion, and it's just my opinion, is that if you are treating this like a job, which I know sometimes it's referred to as you need to treat this like a job, I think that's the wrong advice. I think if you got in real estate to treat this like a job, you made a bad decision and you need to go get a job. You need to go find a job. There's a lot of jobs, JOBs, that will pay you for your time, right? Without the stress of not knowing where that next paycheck is coming from. And if you got into real estate to run it like a job, I think you need to go get a job. If you got into real estate because you wanted to start a business and that entrepreneurial spirit, and you just chose real estate as the industry of which you wanted to do that, then guess what, folks? It's not a job. Because if I go start any other business, I can't go into that and say, you know what, I think I'm going to make this and I'm going to make this much money. I'm going to pay my, no. That's not how this works. When you start a business, you're responsible for everything. And you may not get paid because if there's not enough money after you've paid for everything else to pay yourself, guess what? Who doesn't get paid right away? Most business owners, most small business owners. And it's a struggle. And the struggle is real until it's not, right? And it takes time to build that business. But if you got into this because you wanted to build a business, you wanted to start a business, which is what you did, you did not go get a job. You started a business. And I think we forget that because this industry is so screwed up from that perspective. Like when I first got into this with you guys, I did not know much about the inner workings of the residential real estate business. And I came from a real business background. And when I got into this and I said, wait a second, you guys, I get to come in, start a business as an entrepreneur where I have somebody else that says, hey, we'll do all the accounting work we'll do. We're going to do all your legal and compliance work. We're going to do all your marketing support. We'll give you all of that. We're going to coach you. We're going to provide all your training. We're going to do all the administrative stuff on the back end. All we need you to do is go out and sell stuff. And then we'll only get paid when you do that. It's like, what? Like if I were to start any other business, if me and you said, hey, let's go start a cookie store. We're going to sell cookies. We'd have to find real estate. We'd have to pay for that shop. We'd have to have somebody run the front desk, or it'd be us, or we got to pay them. If we wanted somebody to do marketing for us, guess what? We got to pay them. If we wanted to have an accountant do our finances, we'd have to pay them. So we'd have thousands and thousands of dollars a month going out before we even have a dollar before we've sold a cookie, right? You guys are sitting in a situation where you have a business partner, us, that is saying, no, that's our role. We'll cover that. You need to go out and talk to people. We are in a crazy industry where that is the case. But the reality is we are business partners. This is a business. You chose to be an entrepreneur. And if that is not what you want to do, my hard reality for you is you are in the wrong industry. You are in the wrong business. You need to go get a job. Or you need to realize that you got into this to build something big, something that you're proud of, something that you can go and work hard on every day. And that is what you got into this industry for. You didn't get into this to go get a job and treat it like one.
My thoughts are similar and a little different than that. I think a lot of people got into this industry, like you, not realizing what it really is. And I don't know if that was a fault from the perceptions of the industry at HGTV, right? Or what it actually is as far as what is real estate. I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to go into real estate. I'm going to become a real estate agent, right? That nobody really says, I'm going to open up a real estate store, right? And that's a challenge, right? Because in this industry, guys, I hope you're realizing how blessed, lucky, unbelievably lucky, blessed, grateful. We are thankful and lucky to be in the industry that we're in the location that we're in the state that we're in the country that we're in, with the economic climate that we're in. It doesn't get any better from a business or a job perspective. So with that, it just doesn't, right? So I think most people get into this thinking, I'm going to go help
Love you,
people.
dude. Go crush it.
I'm going to show some houses. I'm going to do what I got to do. And they don't really know what it is. But some of you come into this knowing what it's involved because you've done some research in. And then a lot of you get in here and say, whoa, I didn't realize I had this much upside potential. I didn't realize I can do this. And then the switch clicks on, right? And when the switch clicks on, you're like, wow, I can absolutely have a $1 million business. I can earn $1 million a year. I can make $500,000 a year. I can make 250 a year. I can easily make 100 grand. I could crush it with 50. I make 10,000 bucks a deal. Right? Look at what's possible for me. Look what's possible for my family. What's possible for my life. What's possible for my kids and my grandkids. Look at the epic wealth I could build with real estate that somebody else pays for, that could spit off cash flow forever for me and my kids and their kids. Unbelievable. And then that's where it kicks in. But I think there's a big disconnect from getting into the business to actually realizing how much in control of your life you actually are from an entrepreneur. Because I think it's a big difference from an entrepreneur to a normal business owner to somebody who has a job, right? It's a different mind.
I agree, but I think if you look at one of the commonalities amongst all of our top producing agents is that they run their businesses like a business, right? They are the CEO of their business. And a lot of them, because I've talked with them, they don't look at when they sell a home, it's not income, that's revenue. And that's where the business mindset of me kicks in, right? A lot of times we look at a sale and we're like, oh, well, I sold that home and I earned $12,000 in income. No, you didn't. Your business earned $12,000 of revenue.
Right.
Now we've got to figure out, as a business, there's a thing called EBITDA, right? Which is your earnings before income taxes and appreciation. So now we've got to take that stuff off. Our EBITDA ends up being profit. So where's our profit at the end of the day? And if you actually started running everything, thinking of every aspect of this like a business, and you are not out there generating income, you're generating revenue. And from that revenue, income will come. If Jeff and I started that cookie store and we sold $100,000 this month in cookies, we didn't earn $100,000 in income for ourselves. We sold $100,000 in cookies. And so there's $100,000 in the bank, but we have expenses, right? We've got to pay taxes. We've got to pay, if we have employees, we got to pay for the cookies. We have all this expense, right? Now, you guys are blessed to be in an industry where it doesn't cost us some of those things, right? You don't have to pay for the office. You don't have to pay, but you have other expenses. You have your fees, you have taxes, you have, any marketing, you have expenses. And so now if we start treating this like a business though, Mike Reichenbach is not working for anyone else, right? He is in business for himself. So that's how I just think there's a big disconnect to your point of what we're actually trying to do. And once you understand that at the end of the day, whether you like it, whether you meant to, whatever, you got into an industry and started a business, now it's time to start to treat it like one. And I think to do that, you have to look at every aspect like a business would, like a business owner would. That's one of the interesting things. Once you get to that certain level of 1099 income coming in, then all of a sudden you should start your LLC or however you want to set yourself up from a tax perspective. I think it's important to do that. Why? Because it gets you into that business mindset. Right now, I have money coming into the company. How much am I able to pay myself out of that? Oh, I'm not able to pay myself what I need to. Guess what? I've got to go grow the business then. I've got to go do more.
Let's take the cookie store example a little bit further, right? So we make a great cookie and somebody says, you know what, these are awesome. You guys should sell these, right? Just like somebody said to you, yeah, you've got a great personality. You'd be great in real estate, right? That's where the idea gets born. And then you hear that a few times, you're like, screw it. You know what? I think it's fun. Let's go do it. Right. And you watch some cookie shows on HGTV and right, or real estate shows on HGTV. Like, I could do this, man. This is fun. Right. So then you get into the mindset of, all right, now what's involved? We need to come up with a name. We need to kind of brand ourselves. First of all, we did have a good recipe. Right? You gotta fundamentally know how to make a cookie. Right. Does that make sense? So we have to understand, how do you actually make one? What is the step to, what is the ingredient? What is the mixture? What is the pieces of the ingredient? So it's the recipe. How do you cook it? How do you cool it? How do you store it? How do you preserve it? Right. That's got to be a fundamental aspect before we can even get into business. Right. Which I think is a key note here, because a lot of people just get in the cookie business like, hey, you want to buy a cookie? Right. You didn't even figure out how to make a cookie yet. And then right in real estate, you should figure out how to sell real estate.
And making one batch of cookies at your house in your own oven is very different than making hundreds of batches of cookies, which is what you're going to need if you want to start a business. Right. Just like selling one house, you could get lucky. Selling a house, 2 houses every month, probably not going to be so much luck in that. Right. That's going to take some skill. So I think that's what you're getting at. And that's 100% the case.
Yep. So you got to get the skill set down. There's no question on how to do the skills. So we do Next Level Universities. They're all online. Beggins Ages Next Level Resource Center. The daily training, guys. We're doing the fundamental tactical stuff every day. If you don't know how to bake a cookie / sell real estate, then you really need to go honestly to your manager, like now, shoot a text message and say, I need help. Right. And then no shame in that game. We will make sure that you know the path to do what you do. It's talking to people.
Being with Century 21 now for going on 30 years, the awards and recognition program is really second to none. There's just something about, striving for that master's and getting it, striving for emerald, striving for diamond, striving for Centurion 1, 2, and 3. It's just an extra piece of something that is not part of everything. We're at 122 listings, up from 110. That is huge. But what's really happening, and I'm going to say this, and you're not going to like what I have to say, we're giving sellers the upper hand and buying into their greed. They are saying things like, I don't care if it sells or not. I want this price or I'm not moving. And we're succumbing to them, and they're going on the market, and they're staying on the market longer, and they're not getting offers. And then we got to beat them up for price reductions. And that's just what's happening. So I'm seeing it. I'm seeing days on market, 10, 20, 30 days. All of a sudden, some are still mostly going. Well, I'll show you. New listings, we've taken 57 so far this month. 25 are still for sale. So that means 32 have sold already. So 32 sold the week we put them up, and 25 didn't. The 25 that didn't are the what sellers who said, nah, I'll be a jerk for a while. We've done 138 sales for $1.8 million. And, by the time that's really, all April 20th business, we got another 10 days for sales commitments. We'll break $2 million again. I mean, this is becoming commonplace. $2 million months are awesome. We've closed 1.2 million. We got 1.3 million pending to close by the end of the year. So Misty and her team will be busy. Zillow update. Give me a moment here. Change in the wind, higher mortgage rates, inventory rebound could be the first steps toward a more balanced market. Zillow's economist saying this. Inventory rose substantially in March. See, we're just a little microcosm of the rest of the world, right? A welcome return to seasonal norms for the housing market. Home values are still increasing quickly, but no longer accelerating on a monthly basis. The typical U.S. home is worth 20.6% more than it was a year ago. 20.6% more. Annual rent growth. What is your rental worth? Oh, sorry, you don't get to play in the appreciation game when you have a rental. Ooh. Annual rental growth slowed for the first time in more than a year, and rents grew less than 1% from February, suggesting slower growth in the year ahead. 1% a month is still 12% a year, by the way. Zillow home value and sales forecast. Zillow expects annual home growth to begin to gradually cool down late this spring. Home growth slowing down. That doesn't mean prices falling. It means not growing as fast. So I think you got to take the words and read them properly in context to see what, and I'm not being a bull on this thing either, but what it says, it's still forecasting 14.9% growth. So instead of growing at 20%, it's going to grow at 14%, which means growth is slowing, but it's not dropping. Does that make sense? 6.09 million existing home sales are expected in 2022, According to our latest forecast, a 0.5% decrease from 2020. 2021 was the fastest growing, most of a number of home sales, I think, ever recorded. So we're going to drop 0.5%. That's less than 1%. So I think, Chris, it was you doing a class the other day saying, we don't have low inventory, we have high demand. You can't have low inventory, I mean, there's nothing to sell, when we sold more homes than have ever been sold in a year before. So it's just the words that are coming out of the media are just need to be put in perspective. There's just so many opportunities and games we have to play and tools we have to use that sometimes you hear us talk about them and it goes in one ear and out the other. So we thought we'd try something different. So Ms. Fleischman, you were going to give us an example of a tool that you've learned about that you've used to put cash in your pocket.
I am a big promoter of the warranty, global home warranty. It's saved me and my clients it saved them a ton of money. One example I have is one of my clients, and you have to know your clients. You use the disc and you know who you're dealing with. So if they live in worry land and they're adverse to purchasing the home warranty, buy it for them. I've done this a couple of times, and I only buy the $775 one, the Elite, that covers the inspection. So this one case is a week after they closed, while they were showering, they had sewage backing up into the shower, keeping them company. So what happened was there was a problem with in the plumbing, actually in the belly of the plumbing system. They covered a lot of that. And another home, the refrigerator line leaked all over the floor and behind the wall. And they purchased it. The first people I purchased it for, because they just had lived on the ledge. And what I do is I send them the brochure so they can check out all the different plans. And when you are when you're sending all those forms, once you go under contract, I send that particular one separately and make it fillable so they can physically check the decline or accept box. And I send a note with that form saying, I strongly suggest you look over the brochure and invest in peace of mind with this home warranty. And I tell him, I said, I know home warranties have a stigma. This is different. I believe in it. I would have it on my home when I sell or buy. And they're just more apt to do that. This is different. I believe in it. I would have it on my home when I sell or buy. And they're just more apt to do that.
Great idea. Lauren, I want to thank you because you participate in like everything we do and you're always so welcome to share. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
How many of you can relate to trying something new, whether it's physical, mental, getting into real estate, trying to pick up the phone to cold call somebody the first time you tried to write a contract? How many of you can literally relate to what it looked like when he was trying to ride that backwards bike for the very first time, or when he was trying to relearn how to ride a regular bike for the 100th some time when he was doing that? I just thought that was amazing how our brains work. And then to see a child with the ability to pick that up that much quicker, it just goes to show you that everything that we do is a series of habits. Some things take longer to learn than others. He did that 5 minutes a day and it took him 8 months. If he would have done it for much longer than that, every single day, it would have taken a shorter period of time. So anytime you're trying something new, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, whatever that is, it's got to take some time. And you are unlearning a whole entire history of your life, of the way that you've always done things. And it's so easy for your brain to try to go right back to the way that you've always done it. But let me tell you this, the most expensive words in any business, whether it's monetarily expensive, time expensive, are "we've always done it that way." That's the most expensive words. If you continue to do things the way you've always done them without making any shifts, any changes, any adjustments, your business is pretty destined to fail, or at least not thrive the way that it should. But you saw how hard it is to learn new things. You saw how hard it is to try to incorporate new things. After about 30 days, he could have very easily said, look, you've been riding a bike for this long. You prove you can get a couple feet. You figured it out. If you keep doing it, you'll get it. It'll be fine. But you really need to ride a backwards bike. You just ride the old bike. Just do that. You'll be fine. And you're going to get so much further. Plus, you look silly while you're doing it. And if you keep doing it, you're probably going to fall and hurt yourself. And then it's going to hurt everything else that you got going on. Probably set you back even further. That's what our brain does to us to try to stop us from going into these uncomfortable situations. But if you persist, if you continue to push, if you put the time in, if you make a commitment, what was his commitment? 5 minutes every day, I'm going to ride this bike. It took 8 months. That was his commitment. That's what he felt comfortable committing to. If you commit to doing something for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day to try to learn a new trick, a new habit, a new whatever, a new hobby, new something, you have to be willing to commit, make a decision and do that. And you will continue to be able to do that because you are overcoming years worth of habits, plasticity in your brain that has been locked in so that you have this specific habit mentally, physically, emotionally to repeat the same things over and over again. The brain and the body are the most efficient machines ever built. They try to do everything it can to form that neural pathway, and then they lock it down with myelin sheathing around that neural pathway so that it locks it in. And then now you can do it without even thinking. So it takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment, it takes a decision. So if you want to make any changes in your life, you have to be willing to commit to some of those things to do that. And you have to be willing to look a little silly. You have to be willing to not care what people think about you while you're trying to ride the backwards bike and falling over and not quite getting it right and maybe getting a little bit hurt. It's okay. That's all part of the process, because in the end, whether it takes 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, you are on your way to relearning something to put yourself back into a better position. So really cool video. I thought that really resonated. Now we're going to jump into our topic and we will get into, hold on. All right. So today we are going to talk about talking points, things that you can talk about with your clients. Mike's post today, daily post, was what's going on in the market? Do you have any questions? What's going on with interest rates? What about my home worth? Should I renovate? Should I this, that? Whatever your real estate question is, ask me. So we're going to focus on what's going on in the market so we can have some talking points. That way you can have some statistics, you can have some factual items, you can have some things that are somewhat opinion from some people in articles, but they're based on what's actually going on, so that you can talk to people when they say, is the housing market going to crash? Is there a bubble going on? One of the stats you'll see in here is 77% of the people, the homeowners that were surveyed, feel like there is a real estate bubble right now. So more than 3/4 of the people that own a home that they surveyed, so probably more than 3/4 of your sphere that own a home, think that we are in a housing bubble. They think that, and what happens to a bubble? Inevitably, it pops. So there's fear, there is unknowns, there is, I don't know, I'm not sure. And there is a lot of concern around that with potentially 3/4 of your sphere, 3/4 of the people you have that own a home. So arm yourself with some information. You are not here trying to convince them to buy or sell a home. That's not my job. My job is not to convince you of anything. If you think you have that much power to influence somebody and convince them to sell their home or to go buy a home, if you think you have that much power over them, okay, you're wrong. They are going to move, they are going to buy, they are going to sell when they are ready. Whenever the stars align, whenever everything lines up, whenever they make that decision, it's your job to be the trusted real estate advisor to give them the information that they need so that they can make the most informed decision when they do decide to buy, sell, renovate, invest, move, whatever that is our job. These are not meant to make somebody change their mind and sell their home. So they come back to you, well, you told me to sell. I didn't tell you to sell. I gave you the facts that are going on right now with some projections of what people are thinking is going to go on in the market. That's my job, to give you what's out there, to give you a slight interpretation based on what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. I'm knee deep in this market and I see these things going on all the time, and just wanted to convey some information to you.
So I was thinking this morning while I was walking Lily, I'm going to upend our conversation yesterday a little bit. And we're going to talk about everything we talked about, but I think it's important that we talk about the why of using MoxieWorks more than the how or what.
Because we told you to. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's a good answer. Yeah. Why
well, I mean, I think there's a ton of whys why you should be using Moxie compared to other things. But I think when you look at the why behind what this tool does, or all the tools that Moxie has can do for you, when you look at any market, I mean, yes, even if it's complex and competitive and what's the other one?
Complicated.
Thank you. See, I didn't say it the right way. So we need to mix that around so we make sure we get that right.
It's hard. I stumble on it too.
Yeah. So, but I mean, listen, yes. Is the market different than we've ever seen? I mean, for me, I've only been doing this for 7 years. So I'm going to say, yes, it's different. Every year is different for me when you kind of get started. But, real estate has its ups and downs no matter what. And I think if you look at what Moxie does, in situations like this, where if you're using it correctly and using it more and using it consistently, I guess I would say, there's numbers out there already, first of all, that show a 70% increase in business for those that don't. Okay. So, and these are Moxie numbers. So when they roll these out to brokerages and they use it, they're actually, they get numbers to show that the people that are actually using are doing 70% more business than they normally would be doing versus the people that are not using it. And it's not just one time,
because
you don't just go in once kind of deal. Okay. So
let me just comment on that, because people that are using it are professionals. The why is because if you're not using it, somebody else is. My biggest fear for you, and a lot of you have come to me and told me, I told you your competition is your neighbor who just got their real estate license, who has a better friendship with your neighbors than you do. So the reason why you need to up your game and become more professional as a marketer is because your competition is already doing that. Yeah. And they're doing it on a high level. Zillow, and this is what sparked my thought, Zillow sends me notes all the time about my house and my neighborhood. And I actually look forward to getting them.
Yep.
It tells me my house is worth a lot more than I thought it was worth. And it makes me happy. Right. And it tells me what's going on in my neighborhood. And Zillow is doing it. And I love Zillow. I'm a Zillow premier broker, right? If Zillow's doing it to your customers and you're not, who's going to win?
The first person that comes in their mind is going to win. And if Zillow's the one that's sending you stuff all the time, that's the first person that you're probably going to think of when for your real estate needs. Oh, and let's even go back for a second, because we've even had this conversation. I remember when I started and Zillow was starting to get like bigger and bigger. And I mean, you were
I was anti-Zillow.
Pissed off about it. Like, I wouldn't say pissed. You were like, okay, great, we got this thing coming. And then look at what you've done with that technology that came out and how we integrate it into our everyday business, because you know what? Our clients are doing it anyway. So, I'm not saying jump feet first and let's figure this out, but that's what we did and figured out how we could partner with them. Mm-hmm. And, when I look at that specific instance with you and as a brokerage, kind of what we do and how we try to stay on top of things, like, I think we're fantastic when it comes down to shifting markets and what's happening and what's not happening and what we should be focusing on. And we've changed with the times. And you have to do it. And the thing is there's going to be so many other technology companies that come out with all this other stuff. We're ahead of the game right now, but eventually we're not.
Well, we have the ability to be.
Thank you. The ability to be.
And that's why I want everybody online and those who are not online to think about this. So the number one thing I think is we need to master our database.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Zillow's database is the United States,
Right.
right? And they want to conquer the world. So, and they're probably going to do it. But your job is to conquer your past clients and your spheres of influence and your neighborhood farms that you choose to work on. You need to conquer them.
Yep.
Right. So erase everything else. And that's why when we started talking about Engage, Moxie Engage, we said, whoa, pause. Let's clean up your database first. What is your database? So if you've been with us for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, everybody you sold, we have a record of. Reach out to us and we will pull what's called the
That report.
that report.
Yes.
And we'll give you a list of everybody you've ever sold a house to, and they should be in your database, and they should, the consumer mailing.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Good
It's
looking
nice
out.
to have your back covered like all the time. The consumer mailing list has a list of everybody that you've ever done business with. So they should be in your database, and you should talk to them, not just send them an email or a Moxie impression, something. But that's core, because your customers are worth how much, Jimmy?
$130,000
Over the course of your business, right? And it's so funny now because I've got so many contacts over 30 years I've been doing this, but I still call Aixa all the time and say, hey, who's the guy who does the paving? And she knows it's
Just
Rob.
like that.
And then she sends me his contact and I call him, and that things happen, right? All that knowledge is in here, but it's got to be on paper. And I don't talk to Rob's not my customer, but Aixa does talk to Rob, right? So that is number one, your past clients. Now, if you're new with us and you don't have a lot of past clients, you are disadvantaged because you don't have that. But you have your sphere of influence, which needs to be in your database.
Yep.
And Jimmy, where's the fastest place to find your sphere of influence?
Fastest place? Your
Yep.
phone?
Your phone. I'm looking for my phone. It's not on my desk. But your phone, that's it. Your sphere of influence. What a cute doggy. That's your sphere of influence. So nurture that. Those contacts need to be updated, managed with comments, and uploaded into Moxie. And that's where you start. And if you only have 100, you have 100. But the rule of thumb, since I've been a broker, it was 10% of the people in your sphere will do business with you or refer business to you if you stay in touch with them and give them relevant information.
Yep.
Okay. So the why is because if you're not contacting them, somebody else is. You need to have your past clients and your sphere of influence in your database, and you need to be talking to them. Whatever niche, whatever you want to call it, you're working should be downloaded into your database.
Yep.
And you should call these. And in Moxie, you can, this is my geographic farm. This is my sphere of influence. These are my past clients, right? And you're going to have different things you're going to send to them. But this is like, bar none, the most important thing you can do in the real estate business is nurture this database.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of us, and we're seeing, Jimmy, from the surveys you're getting, the people that are using it are loving it.
Yep. The people that are engaging are loving it.
The people who aren't. And that's a problem. And this is a wake-up call. This is me, wake-up call. Sphere of influence, past clients, and then your niche, whatever you want to call it. If you decide you want to work, I'm thinking of Laura Wolf right now, Bahia Lakes, you go to Remine and you download the list of everybody in Bahia Lakes, and you'll create, like you've been teaching us, to do a special alert notification. You're going to adopt everybody in Bahia Lakes for this example, because Zillow already is there.
Right.
And I'm not going to just stop at Zillow because it's Trulia and it's Realtor. I can't tell you how many Realtor.com emails again, and they're doing a good job. What's his name? Rupert Murdoch bought Realtor.com. He owns the Wall Street Journal. Right. And they've gamified Realtor.com now. And it's all about celebrity houses and the fanciest places on the beach. And all these cool things come out from Realtor.com that are attention catching. And I read them, and it's the Property Brothers and all those people that they've gamified realtor.com to make people watch it. So don't be shy about realtor.com because they're marketing our customers as much as Zillow is.
Yep.
So we have to do this. The why is we have to do this because it's being done to our customers. And if we don't participate in the game, we're going to lose.
And one more thing, I think, like, and let's talk about, I will not go into what's happening now, but I feel that with what is happening now in the market, that it's even more imperative. Again, you say your neighbor's getting your license, that's happening. And honestly, you have, like, I know for a fact, I've had a few clients of mine that have stopped for right now. It's not their time anymore. They're out of the market right now, unfortunately, with what price point there is. It's even that much more important now to make sure that you're still communicating with that database and those people, because just because they want to buy a house now doesn't mean they're going to purchase it in the next 2 months. It could take a couple years. The lifespan of an internet lead, when they actually are just thinking about it, it's usually the wife that's on Zillow looking at houses before the husband even knows. I know that's not necessarily 100%, but you start there, and it takes time to do business with them. So if you do not have a database and you don't have a pipeline that you're working and you're following up, then you're going to miss out on the boat. That's your future business. That's everything that you're doing down the line. And, and that's what I feel that Moxie does very, very well and efficiently, if you learn how to use it and take the time to do everything to work those, specific types of clients and stuff that Craig talked about in the rest of your database.
And our brand gives us this for free.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, things that are free, are taken less value of. But we need,
by all means, use whatever you want. But what the best CRM and the best database, the best CRM that's out there is the one that your broker's giving you for free.
yeah, I don't care. I don't care if you use Moxie, use something.
Yeah.
But it certainly makes sense to use Moxie since it's provided for you by the brand.
Oh yeah.
Craziness, right? We sold a home. This kills me. There's a street in a community here called Summerfield, and it's called Laraway. And Laraway is one of the older streets in the neighborhood. And I remember homes on that street selling in the 70s, $70,000.
Wow.
And our agents just sold a house on Laraway with a one-car garage for $350,000 to an investor who planned on renting the home. And we all knew they planned on renting the home. The closing was supposed to happen yesterday, but the title company never got the wire. Interesting play on words. Because now under the new contract, when the title company receives the funds is when the closing occurs.
Correct.
So the title company did not receive the funds yesterday, the day after the closing. The seller received an HOA letter stating the new amendment to the HOA docs that you must own the home for 2 years before you can rent it.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. So did it close or did it not close? Was the seller made aware prior to closing? Apparently 3 months earlier. This is right in line with where we're going today, Crystal. 3 months earlier, they sent out a notice that this was a topic for discussion, and the seller paid no attention to it, or didn't read the mail, or we're all guilty of that. And the day after the closing, HOA sends a letter, no more rentals unless you've owned the home for 2 years.
But you know what? Here's the piece, and this is where folks don't get into the detail. If you look at the HOA disclosure form, there's a clause on there that says, and the buyer's agent should be providing it, but we also need to point it out that they're entitled to the financials, the minutes, all of the documents. And if that was, do they read them? Sometimes not, but that's how we cover our butts.
Yes. And an abundance of caution, what I recommend, mostly for condo associations, because they're a little trickier, ask the seller, if you're the buyer's agent, request that the seller provide 6 months worth of the last condo meeting minutes.
Yep.
And why not do it I save all my HOA stuff. It all goes into an HOA folder.
Well, I put my stuff in dot loop.
There you go.
I just throw it in dot loop because it's all there. The surveys, everything's in dot loop.
Yeah. So in this case, we had a seller who said, look, I don't even want to get threatened with a lawsuit. Just cancel, give him his money back. Let's put the house back on the market. So in that case, we really lucked out because
Mhm.
that could have been a nasty, nasty, nasty situation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Crystal, you came up with a great idea yesterday that we need to talk about the seller's disclosure statement.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to head right into that right now, and there's a real good reason. Here and now, exactly. So
I know, that song is playing in my head all the time now.
I just like it here and now, because where are you? I'm here and now. How are you now? Good. Perfect. Okay, so might be a little dry topic, but I think we're going to do it because let's see. Let me set the stage. I was at a mediation for 4 hours last week. That mediation was a result of probably 4 months worth of research and lawyer communication back and forth with us providing evidence. That mediation had myself, our agent, our attorney, a mediator, the sellers, their attorney, and the plaintiff and their attorney. There's a lot of people in a Zoom meeting for 4 hours, and it was very stressful. And it ended up costing us $15,000, which is bullshit. And the sellers paid $25,000.
Wow.
We already fulfilled our deductible, so it didn't cost us any money out of pocket other than our $5,000 deductible. So the insurance company paid $15,000 more, plus whatever extra legal fees were involved. Buyer's attorney got paid. Mediator got $375 an hour for 4 hours. Right. So a lot of time and expense goes into this. And it became an issue over a seller's disclosure statement.
Right.
So what I want to do today is I want to take the seller's disclosure statement and go through it and then kind of give you guys the insight to question a little more.
Yep.
Right. The seller I just talked about with Allison Laraway, he was smart. I don't want to get involved in a lawsuit. Just cancel him. Right. This buyer walked through the house the day of closing. The seller disclosed that the AC had a missing cartridge, but it was under warranty, which to a reasonable person could have said, there's an issue with the AC.
Right.
Well, what we didn't know, and none of us knew, is the seller had 19 AC repair calls put into that house in the 2 years they owned it. Okay.
Red flag.
That's a red flag. Now, had the buyer known there have been 19 trouble tickets served, they might have raised a question. So what we want to avoid is, had I known this, I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Right. Had I known this, had I known they had 19 friggin' service calls on this air conditioner, I would have investigated more. But all you told me was this.
Yep.
And I'm going to sue you. And the buyer got $40,000, which paid for the new AC system and taxed my insurance company and the sellers. So that's that. Lauren says, when the listing agent provides the HOA docs and or the CCRs in the MLS, I download those as well, add to .loop and add signatures to these docs so the buyers can sign after reviewing. Yeah, it does, except for when the HOA does an amendment. Because most of the time, if I gave you my HOA docs, they're from when did I build this house? 2000. Those are the docs that, how many times have they been amended since then?
I just got some documents amended in on my HOA, and I have it on the counter that I got to read it to make sure it's nothing relevant.
Yeah. So we really need the amendments too. And that's why the HOA disclosure document says, hey, buyer, you're being made that there's an HOA. You need to check it out. That's what the HOA disclosure says. The condo docs are totally different. But the HOA disclosure says, hey, there's an HOA, you need to figure it out. So anyway, let's jump right into it.
And the key is, and I think a lot of folks realize, oh, it's not going to close for 45 days or it's not going to close to 30 days. You got to get those docs in that inspection period.
Yes. Well, under the HOA docs specifically, the buyer has the right to cancel.
Correct.
Within 3 days of receipt. So I want you to give them the disclosure, not the docs, the disclosure ASAP.
Yep.
Is what they can't.
And then you just think about it. How many times you see contracts that have gone, listings that have gone under contract and there's no attachment.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I just wrote it. Oh my gosh, we won this. This is a great deal. And this goes into our disclosure discussion. Your client doesn't know what they signed up for.
Correct. Lauren just chatted into, or call the HOA directly, especially when investors are involved.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Okay, so sharing screen. I just like to go through dot loop. I'm going to go to templates. I'm going to go to all documents. Okay, so this is, I mean, whether you're new or experienced, this is a good refresher for you. So we're going to actually cover it in detail today because it is being recorded and it will go into the resource center. Florida law requires a seller of a home to disclose to the buyer all known facts that materially affect the value of the property being sold and that are not readily observable or known to the buyer. That's a pretty powerful statement, right? All known facts that affect the value that are not readily observable. And this gets kind of deep, but let me finish this. This disclosure form is designed to help you comply with the law. However, this disclosure form may not address every significant issue that is unique to the property. You should think about what you would want to know if you were buying the property today. And if you need more space for additional information, comments or explanations, check the paragraph 12 checkbox and attach an addendum, right? This is telling the seller, this is important stuff. And it's on the buyer, hey, the following representations are made by the seller and not by any real estate licensee. So this is where you as an agent take your hand and put it in your pocket. You don't touch this document. You don't sign it. You don't check it for them. You don't do anything. All you do is ask questions to probe a little bit, which is what we're going to do in a minute. This disclosure is not a guarantee or a warranty of any kind. It is not a substitute for any inspections, warranties, or professional advice you may wish to obtain. It is not a substitute for your own personal judgment and common sense. The following information is based upon the seller's actual knowledge of the property conditions. Sellers can disclose only what they actually know. Seller may not know about all material or significant items. You should have an independent professional home inspection to verify the condition of the property and determine the cost of repairs, if any. This disclosure is not a contract and is not intended to be a part of any contract and for sale and purchase, right? Seller makes the following disclosure for the property described as 123 Annie Street, right? And then right here, I just had a big dispute over this one. This box. The property is owner occupied, tenant occupied, unoccupied. Just had this big, long, lengthy fight. The seller checked tenant occupied. So that tells you what?
There's a lease. There is a lease.
Now up here, it says this is not a part of the contract. So the contract that was signed on this particular situation I'm talking about, the seller did not disclose the presence of a lease. But the listing agent argued that he did disclose because the seller's disclosure said tenant occupied. The contract says, is there a lease? Yes or no, and provide copies. So this is a seller saying, hey, there's a tenant. And I think we need to be very clear. I'm going to stern on this because I don't want to go to mediation again. If your seller gives you this and it says tenant occupied, then you need to ask them for a copy of their lease. Correct. You need to read this. And all this horse crap where the sellers go, don't know. That's not acceptable.
Right.
Because if they get to a court, which most of them will never get that far, it's not going to hold up.
They know something. I think on this, pausing on this piece, this is another good one. Or, you know how there's the other one-page disclosure was like not owner occupied. I don't know any material defects of the property. And it's just basically blank that investors provide. It goes along the same lines. You got to ask the questions.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really not an acceptable answer in most cases. Structures. Are the structures, including roof, ceilings, walls, doors, windows, foundation, pool, hot tub, and spa, if any, structurally sound and free of leaks? I'll use my house as an example. Right now, the answer is yes. And this is where I don't really know the answer to this question. So I would probably err on the side of caution and disclose more than less, right? My house has had lots of leaks, which is why I put a new roof on it. And there's still drywall damage in the ceilings because I haven't had the painters out to fix it yet, right? So what would I do in that case?
You would actually put out there that you've had leaks in the property, then you're going to go down and say you had with your roof, the roof was replaced in 2022, and then that's going to explain. But that alone is, when you're going out looking at the houses, point the stuff out, because you should know the red flags. Okay, there's something there. Okay, let me ask about those spots in the ceiling. And those are just the basic things. And I think I always treat it as if it's my own house. If I'm walking in, you're going to look down at the baseboard, see what's going on, can you kind of tell there might have been some termites when you're walking in the door, because you can see where it's been chewed up. Just treat it as you were buying something for your family member.
This is a big responsibility of an agent.
Yeah.
It's really not stated. It says, don't rely on your agent for any of these things, but a good agent is going to pull these things out.